chaos.
Welcome to video diary number 2. I think you can see my fingers. We're now in WA, currently in Broome at time of filming. But we've had quite an eventful 2 and a bit weeks since we last spoke to you. Would have been about 2 weeks.
Probably, yeah.
2 and a bit weeks. Yeah. With some good things, really good things. Lots of fun has been had, and then some wear and tear. Are we going to call it wear and tear?
Well, if you're going to go wear and tear off my bloody mozzie bites.
Yeah, wear and tear
covered in
mosquito. On Martin's body with mosquito bites. Looks like he's wearing polka dot tights.
They don't look good.
Yeah,
it's like someone's
not
got
good.
A cigar and just gone.
Yeah. So if anyone knows a non-poisonous but very effective mosquito repellent, put it in the comments below. Because we've tried a lot.
No one's ever tried everything.
We've tried a lot, and if Martin's skin doesn't react to it, then it doesn't prevent the mosquitoes.
I'm a little bit sensitive.
Very sensitive man.
Yeah,
but
so
let's start with a good thing. It's a good thing that's happened.
A good thing. Well, we made it here. That's safe and sound.
Very good thing.
Yeah, so we've had a few challenges over the last few weeks. And this is just part of life, especially when you're on the road. You know, there's challenges every day in life. But the first one, you'll probably be aware that we have online businesses. So my Apple MacBook Pro just literally died. Just was working fine in the night, came to the next day, would not fire up. There had been nothing done in between that. So unfortunately, we were like just wouldn't come on. Unfortunately, we were remote, so trying to explain to somebody as Apple support where we are, what we're doing, the fact that we're not going to be in that location for a new one or replacement to be a fixed one to be sent back was a challenge in itself, and trying to understand time frames. So I think when you know a lot of the social media stuff that you see of people traveling, including ourselves and others, tends to be viewed as, wow, look at that, it's amazing. And you know, even some of Beth's parents' friends are saying, oh, you know, are Martin and Beth enjoying their holiday? And they're like, it's not a holiday, it's their lifestyle, which means they still work and they have things going on in their lives that like need to be addressed. We're just traveling at the same time rather than being stationary. So there's all these different challenges that come up, and it's just really interesting. It's funny how you go about it. And at the moment, like my laptop, we got an email I think this morning to say that my laptop's delayed. Well, we gave a time period of based on where we were going to be, and went, oh, let's give it a bit longer, and it looks like it's not even going to make it to that place, which is fairly remote, to get it back, and I really need it for work. So these are like the little things that can be challenging that a lot of people aren't aware of, and they just look at where you are and the activities you're doing.
I think a stationary postal address is something that people take for granted.
Yeah,
like you can just have stuff sent to you wherever.
But that was just the challenge there. And then we had my mum and stepdad have flown in from the UK to.
That's not a challenge. That's a good thing.
That's well. that was starting off as a win. There's a bit of a challenge now. So no, it's really good to have them and enjoying this.
Hozzy's decided to wake up.
Yeah, the little
pop in and say hi. In his pajamas.
We've got a 2-berth caravan, so Beth had already planned out everywhere we're going to be. The majority of this time that we've got with them is actually booked in caravan parks because they need a cabin. And we can create that space. So that's a new experience for us as well, because we've stayed in a couple of caravan parks over the time, and they're great. Don't get me wrong. There's caravan parks provide value, and we do tend to stay in our van, as in using our own shower and things like that, and our own toilet. We don't really use the amenities at a caravan park, but it's been really good to have that separation where they can have their own space, we can have our space. We do have, and I think this is something that my mum and stepdad have realised, is we have a routine and we have the way that we live in this little space of ours, and it works really well. So when you bring a couple of other people in, all of a sudden it's like, well, from us laying on the bed, having dinner, chilling out, watching a movie or having a conversation, whatever it might be, there's other people in there, and you're like adapting, aren't you? It's interesting how life changes based on just a couple of extra bodies.
And I think it's also different to going on holidays with someone, like, because if you were going on a trip with someone, it would again have a different vibe to what they're on holidays. So they're going and seeing all these amazing things, but we're still doing life in amongst that. And it's an odd dynamic, and like everything, it takes working through and adjusting, but that's okay. We're doing it. We're 2 weeks today, isn't it?
I think it's 2 weeks that they've been here,
that they landed.
And it's been really interesting because, so at this time of recording the video, I've been in Australia about 14 and a half years. And over that time, I think my mum and stepdad have been over five times, I think, just before this one. So what they'd only ever done was they'd come in and then come into Perth. They'd had one trip over to Sydney, and that was because they dance and there was a dancing event over there. But they've come to Perth to see me, to spend time with me, and we've maybe gone down to Margaret River. We've gone around. We've gone over to Rottnest. The usual things that you do when you're on holiday and you're showing people around. In Perth. Now, when we go right the way back to why we wanted to get on the road, the intention was to see Australia in its rawest beauty, and I've been blown away with how beautiful Australia is when you get out of the cities in particular. Like, I love nature, so coming up North WA into the Pilbara and the Kimberley, it just blew my mind. And I said to my mum and Dave, my mum and stepdad, that, hey, when you come over, if it works out, it'd be fantastic to show you the raw, what I would class as raw Australia. And you'll see a completely different side to it. So they've flown in and they've been experiencing it over the last 2 weeks, and we'll go through some of the things that we've been doing, and they're amazed by it. That they can't get over how incredible this place is, especially because we started in the Kimberley. And anyone who's, if you've been in the Kimberley, like, let us know in the comments below. Especially express it and let other people who haven't been, because it's incredible, and we're doing our best to share with you via the filming and the conversation, the shares that we've got here around how beautiful it is and incredible, and it literally takes your breath away. As we're driving from Darwin, certainly Northern Territory, into WA, and just notice the rocks changing, and the
trees changing, like the plant life changing.
Boabs coming in, you're just
like,
wow.
It's like, oh, we got to the Kimberley,
Here we go, and it's just beautiful. It's just incredible.
But I think also for Mark's mum and stepdad, sure, we're showing them all these beautiful places, but they didn't, as much as we talk to them pretty much every week on Zoom, and so we're always telling them the things that we're doing and what's happening in our life, and but they couldn't quite conceptualize it. Like, even Mark's stepdad has done a little bit more camping caravanning than his mum
in the UK.
In the UK, which again is quite different, but at least he kind of had an idea of what was required with a caravan and moving, and Mark's mum, turns out, had pretty much nothing, like no reference point to what it was that we actually do. Like, even just, she said to me the other day, there's a lot of physical stuff you have to do to move, and like, so the actual traveling between these beautiful places, even that was kind of like blowing her mind on what we had to do to get from one spot to another, like pack up, move to the next spot. And we've got it down to a fairly simple, like, fine art. We don't have extra stuff. If we're only somewhere for a little while, we're lucky if we put out the awning. Like, we do it fairly simply compared to some setups that people have going around. But even those little things, you can't explain that to someone who has no reference, has no idea. So I think for them, just sort of being in and around our lifestyle is going to be a huge, or already has been a huge, not adjustment, but like awareness, like opening for them of what it is that we do every day.
Yeah, and I think everyone has their own routines.
Yeah.
So, in your own space, your home, your apartment, whatever it might be, you just have your own routine and you're comfortable, you know where everything is. And that's exactly what we've got in our little home here. And like Beth says, when somebody else comes in, and it's an interesting point, and I only realised this the other day, that they're on holiday, and like Beth says, we're still living our normal life. I'm adapting with them, but we've still got to do work, and we've still got to set things up and do things. So it's really interesting how, and I can only speak on as to my energy of noticing that, hey, they're in that holiday energetic space where you relax and you're like, oh, just chill out, and I might go. But in the holiday, in the caravan park here, there's a swimming pool. Might just go to the pool. Might just chill out, whatever it is. Whereas I'm like, okay, let's go through the van. What needs sorting out? Because we've just done the Gib River Road. So what needs checking over? What needs fixing?
What needed sorting out, Martin?
Yeah,
that's a great segue to what needed sorting out once we got off. If you haven't done Gib is amazing, beautiful, and second time we've done it. I'm already trying to time when we're going to do a third one. So it's beautiful, and I would recommend anyone who has the ability do it, because the places that you'll see are...
The places you see are amazing.
Are incredible.
So Gib River Road in itself is just a corrugated
road. It's just a road.
Yeah, so let's just get that clear.
But you have to go on it to go to these places.
Yeah.
There's no other way, unless... We did hear about a group that's currently helicoptering around Australia. So that's, I guess, a way you could go along and see all these places without having to go on the corrugated roads. But not many people have a helicopter.
Apparently there's 18 choppers. So the owners have got together, and there's apparently 18. And each chopper has 4 people in it. And they are literally travelling around Australia. Going from place to place, and they didn't know about the bongles. So somebody had told them, they're like, oh, all right, we'll fly over that way then. Literally, like, that was the mindset of, okay, cool, we'll make sure we get fuel, and they're calling in at stations to collect fuel. So that must be, like, what we're doing is amazing, but I think doing it in a chopper on a whole other level of awesomeness. But like you said,
we digress.
Yeah, we digress. But the big thing, and I apologise if I keep scratching, I'm just so itchy all over. The big thing that we had, and because of my mum and Dave being with us, was that we needed to find them cabins. And I know that when they flew into Connemara, where we were, and we went out to Lake Argyll, and we showed them it was quite hot, certainly for them. So they
got off the plane with jeans on and jackets in their hands.
Well, it was cold in Perth, to be fair, though, so they were dressed for Perth weather, and then flew up into the Kimberley. So Beth then was like, I don't know how they're going to go, how they're going to cope, because what we had set up was, we've got a tent. We've also set it up so we can sleep in the car if needed, and we've obviously got the bed here in the caravan. And Beth was like, I don't know how they're going to cope with the heat, especially if we're going to be off grid, because we'll likely can't have the Jenny going all night for them to have aircon. And they were having the aircon in the room where they were at Lake Argyll. So Beth was like, I'm going to book into some of the stations where they can have their own cabin and it can be a bit more comfortable. So that was fine. But what that then created was the focus was on them and them being comfortable, but it created this beautiful opportunity to go and call in these different stations, which we had passed the first time that we were doing the Gib.
Because the first time we did it, we just free camped, apart from El Questro, and we stayed at Manning, which is about halfway. But the rest of the time, we just sort of free camped on the side of the road, so we didn't go into the station.
Just passed, and that was. and each of them really has their own unique experience when you're there. I like the one what we went to, Ellen Bray had the scones, so they did scones and mango smoothies, which were really, really good. And the people who were managing it were really nice people, and it was interesting having conversations with them. And there was hardly anyone else around because it's late in the season. And then we went on to Mount Elizabeth Station, which was fantastic. I loved that. They had like a communal dinner where people come together and just all eat, and everyone's sharing their stories of travelling and stuff. And they've got a unique gorge, a 4-wheel drive track out to it, which was fantastic. They've got a little water hole you can go and swim in. And the guy who's managing that station said that he believes out of all the gorges along the Gib, this one was the best. And it certainly was very, very nice. Good. Yeah. So, like we wouldn't have had that experience.
Rock art as well that we saw.
There's rock art down there, and even another couple that we got talking to, they said it's actually some of the best rock art they've seen on their travels, and they said they've seen a fair amount, and especially how close you could get to it and so on. Still respecting it, but how close you could get. And I think that's been, like, we probably didn't realise, or certainly I'll say I didn't realise just how much more I was going to benefit and we were going to benefit from my mum and stepdad being over, based on having to go into these stations and so on. So it's like new experiences rather than, I remember my mum saying to me, "Oh, so you've not been here before? And then you've not been here before?" And I'm like, "No, this is all new. The only one we've been to was like the Manning Gorge up to that point." And so it was all new and exciting for us, which was nice to share that experience as being fresh.
And I think that touches on another point of, like, that's our second time doing Gib. And the first time it took us 10 days, 9 or 10 days.
We didn't rush it.
The second time was 6, I think, 6 or 7. And we still saw new things. We still saw different gorges, different walks, different people. So, like, we always laugh at the people who go, "Oh, I did Gib in 3 days," like they've achieved something. But there's so much to see. And even now, because I'm looking at when we're going to do it next, we've never turned up and gone past Drysdale or Mitchell Falls, like the top bit of the road. So actually getting off Gib River. Yeah, we've never done that.
The dogs.
It's a bit trickier with dogs. But so I'm already looking at ways in which we could do that, even if we have a dog, for next time, because I think, like, and that's one of the great things about, I'm going to be biased and say WA. I'm sure it happens a lot over Australia, but WA being so huge and there being so many natural, beautiful things, you could drive down the same road a number of times and still stop and see different equally beautiful things each time.
I no doubt the time
and
season.
Seasons would change it. Yeah,
because we noticed that like out at Manning in particular, that when did we do it the first time? Was it June, July?
Yeah, it would have been early July.
So we're like September this time. So it was a lot quieter. It's I always find it interesting what people say about the roads and the terrain and stuff. And it's what people, basically their experience, it's their reality. So that their reality is their reality. But we thought the Gib River Road was just a corrugated road. We actually thought that the first time we did it, and it was a lot rougher the first time we did it. And we didn't have any issues coming off it, apart from the usual things like, bearing in mind, you're going over corrugations, so if they're not nylon nuts on things, they're going to come loose potentially. So there's just some stuff in the van that came loose, such as on the hot plate where you turn the dials and that, there's the nuts on there have come loose, and a few of the screws to doors and things. But this time we had the water pump die, we had a water heater die,
we need new tyres for our caravan.
And yeah, the caravan seems to have, since it's had its service, it's like rolling kind of, if I'm looking at the screen just so I'm in line, so it's kind of like rolling like that on the edge of the tyres. And obviously going over so many corrugated roads and rocks and that, it's just been chewing through. So But
To be fair though, we did do, before Gib, about a month, 6 weeks before, we did do Outback Way, which is another really long corrugated road.
Yeah, and you're doing long days, so the tyres are hot, so it's just going to chew through. But we were, and we've also got to take into account that we're 2.5 years in, like full-time travelling, so it's not really, the van's not sitting around, you know, till the next weekend trip away or things like that. It's just constantly go, 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 and we are.
And I like hot showers, so the hot water systems.
Yeah, Beth likes. Yeah, it doesn't really bother me, but Beth likes hot showers. So, and when I say hot, I'm talking about she's got asbestos skin, like that hot. It's ridiculous. Everybody else would be like, but no, not for Beth. So we got to take into the fact that not only this time of doing the Gib, we already did the Gib and everything was fine. We already did all the other corrugated tracks, all the 4-wheel drive tracks that we've gone on, even when my mate came, like Jez came out with us, and he was like, I can't get over how this van moves
just
so
follows
well,
us through.
and you're not shy on the speed. You know, over the like when we went out to South Lefroy Bay and over the tracks, that he was like, I'd be going this fast in my 4-wheel drive on its own. And it wasn't us being stupid and trying to show off or anything like that. It was just how confident we are with the van.
Yeah.
And knowing what it can do. Not saying, you know, we're experts with it, but we've been and travelled so far and for so long that we're just comfortable with what we do. So we've got to take into account the wear and tear. So we fixed the water pump. My stepdad and I, we sorted that out. And then
you replaced it.
Yeah, we got a brand new one. So that's the second one. So the first one lasted 12 months. This one lasted 18 months. But the water heater. So we were testing it, checked the fuse, everything, and then we were like, we'll have to take it to a service agent. So when we pulled into Broome, we found one, and he looked at it and he literally said the whole thing is rattled internally to bits. He's like, it's just not worth it. Buy a new one. And I know he was really busy, and we've only got a couple of days, so there's possibly the side of, I haven't got the time to repair it. They haven't got the time to wait. Just put a brand new one in. And he said
it was going to cost us as much
pretty much
in labour for him to repair it. Then
and it was out of warranty, so then we get a new warranty, and we plan on travelling for some time yet still. So we were like, right, well, let's just get a brand new one. We're not going to have any other issues then. So, and I think, like, when we're talking about these things happen in life, you know, like your water or your boiler at home will go, your water system, whatever, your aircon unit, you know, fortunately the aircon's all right. But these are things that happen, and you forget about them. You know, like it's basically $2,000 just there in water heater and the water pump. I forget the tyres. Like I've changed the wheels. We've got brand new tyres on the Spurs, so those other 2 tyres need changing. That's like another $700, and you don't often think about these when you're just busy in life, and then you go, oh yeah, of course, you need to change that, or you're not expecting the water heater to die or the water pump. So
I think the biggest thing with that though is, like, yes, there's the money aspect, but you can have that at home. Yeah. But for us, when the water heater goes and it's got to go to be serviced, that's our whole house that goes to be serviced. So
yeah, you were a bit concerned about that, weren't
you? I was like, well, if he needs it overnight, where are we going to sleep? Like, our whole life is in here, and he hasn't just got, like, the hot water system. It's not just one room that's out. Like, if the bathroom's out, it's at the house. Our whole house is gone. So how do we deal with that? What things do we need to take out of the van so that if he does need to keep it overnight, we have the ability to brush our teeth, have a shower, feed the dog, and sleep? Like, what do we need?
Yeah.
So it's little things like that, you know, people, you don't realize until you're in the situation, and then you go, actually, hold on, we might need to think this through a bit more.
and even though as big as Broome is as a town, it's still fairly remote. So we had no idea whether he was going to have the part, whether he was going to have a new one. And I think that's, like you're paying the remote tax on stuff, because we looked at how much a new one was, and Dave and I could have fitted it, but then it's a gas line, and then is if anything goes wrong, would the company sort it out under warranty, because we're not gas fitter qualified. So there's all these different things you got to think about. And I remember when I was getting my clothes and stuff, and Beth's like, "So what are you packing?" And I've got 3 pairs of jocks, and I've got a couple of pairs of shorts and t-shirts. And she's only thinking we're going may lose the van overnight. And I'm like, well, might be a few days. Like, we might have to change some plans here. So I can see you going, no, that isn't happening. And this kind of thought process of, I'm going to manifest that we're getting this back today. So it's going there this morning. We're getting it back today. And as it was, we did get it back that day.
But it like really, because I remember when I first told one of my closest friends, Julian, I told him that we were going to get in a caravan and we were going to travel around Australia. And he looked at me and he said, you won't be able to do it. You need like safety and security. You need your place. So he couldn't understand how me and my personality and my emotional state was going to handle not being in a place, like not having the security of knowing where my nearest coffee shop was, or that kind of thing. So I've had to adjust, and so the van is my home, and Martin teases me about my pillows and my fake plants and all these things, but I'm a homey person.
We're overweight based on bloody pillows.
When I moved in with Mart, it was okay, so this is going to be the lounge room, there's going to be pillows, but because that's what I do. I go in and I make things like feel homey. So that's what I've had to do in the van. And so the van is my like safe space. That's my security. This is my home. And I've just adapted that it can be parked anywhere, but as long as I've got this, then I feel okay. So the prospect of not having that was a little bit.
Couple of days max. Yeah.
Just rattles me a little bit. I would have survived, but
yeah,
I wouldn't have been giggling as much. That's for sure. Mum would have probably locked me out.
Yeah. So we did the gib.
We survived. The van just
everything was
needed
fine. I think we this time. So last time we actually. People were telling us, because we've got a petrol V8, people were like, especially from Connemara to Derby, so going east to west, people were saying, you're going to need to make sure you got plenty of fuel. They might not have petrol, or certainly after Mount Barnett in the middle, you're not going to get petrol. So we had 80 litres of petrol on the first time we did it. We didn't even touch that. Mm-hmm. This time, however, we did get into it, because we went and did a few more off the tracks into the stations, which could be 20-30 k's into them, and then we did there's a flag on right over the camera, just hanging on the camera. That's the wings you can see. So, of all the places to land, right on the camera. And then we went and did this, and it was a 4-wheel drive track, a rocky 4-wheel drive track, and it took about an hour and a half, I think, or just over an hour to get
15,
in.
yeah.
And then you had a 20-minute walk or something. So, and it was just a rocky 4-wheel drive track, but it definitely needed some.
He's back again.
I wonder what wants on that camera. It wants to be in the video. So we're gonna have to name this fly. We're gonna have to give it a name and travel with it. So that was. Like, these are things to just be aware of, and we definitely are always looking at it. Like, we had plenty of water, spare water, plenty of fuel, and it's just looking at what is it you need. And water's as good as gold when you're traveling. From a point of view, you don't want to, like, too many people die because they haven't got bloody water. But then make sure you got fuel with driving to get out. But
also, I think for us this time, like, we know that if we're running short of water, we just, when it's just us, we just like skip showers, or like there's things that we can do. But because we had Rosa and Dave with us, and they're I think I worked at the average age of 71, and they've had a few health concerns before they came over. So we probably went a little bit further than we normally would with like just covering all our bases for this trip.
Of how remote we were going to be.
We were going to be, in the middle of nowhere. So we needed to make sure that we had like the bare essentials for them, just in case.
Yeah.
But we did it, and the smile on especially your mum's face in lots of the walks and the gorges. She's like, oh, you could just leave me here all day. I'll just sit here and I'll just watch this all day. And so that makes it a little bit more special for us.
Yeah, even Dave, stepdad, said, like, there's an adventure holiday, and then there's this. This is an adventure.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that, you know, like I was saying to him, we're fortunate enough to be able to do it, as are other Australians and other people travelling throughout Australia. But what they're experiencing, like the majority of the population of Australia won't do this and won't have this experience for their own choices, or maybe not through their own choices. So to make sure they're finding the gratitude in it and really enjoying it and being present with it, and especially because this is a once in a lifetime thing. They're not going to be doing it again. They're not going to be coming out and doing it. We'll continue to travel for a bit, but there's no way as they get older that they're going to be able to. And it's not cheap for a lot of people to do this. They're fortunate that we've got the van and the car and we can take them around and show them places. And they now understand why we have the setup we have, especially the 4-wheel drive. Because they realise that they wouldn't have got to some of the gorges we went to without the 4-wheel drive. So it all starts to make sense versus us telling them about it on the weekly calls that we have. To actually have them come and spiritually experience it is completely different to them trying to understand what we're going through and see the videos or the pictures, which is one of the reasons why we say to everyone, like, just get out and do it. You know, you don't need hundreds of thousands of dollars. We didn't have a house to sell. We didn't have hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank ready to go. We just we can either stay at home and work in our businesses at home, or we can just get on the road and travel. And you know, we're great believers of it's a decision. You make that decision, you just go. And whether or not friends, family, anybody else agrees with you, it's your life. You're walking in your own shoes. Just make it happen and then adapt. One of the things we do really well as human beings is we adapt to things that are important and in alignment with us. And you know, like, I've stuck my head in a few vans. Like one of our mates, Andrew and Jodie, who are just incredible couple. We really love and respect them. They came and met us up in Kununurra, was it last year, the year before, and they had a big van, and I stuck my head in it, and I'm like, whoa, look at all the space you've got.
Did make a big noise?
Like, did I? And I'm like, wow, this is so cool. And I came back in here and I literally felt like I was walking into a shower cubicle in our van. But it's amazing how little you actually need, especially considering we spend a lot of time in our van versus a lot of other people spend a lot of time outside their van, yet they have all this space. So it just comes down to what you want and what you're used to and what you're willing to adapt with. Yeah,
well, and then we get to places like, where did we get? El Questro, and Rosa and Dave have a chalet, like a room, and their ensuite was as big as our van. So I was like, oh yeah, that's right. That's how other people live. But this is our home, so and we love it. We wouldn't change it for the world.
So we're currently at Broome.
Yeah.
Enjoying it, apart from all mozzies and midgies that are just annihilating me and my mother. And it's been really tasty.
It's been probably would have liked to have been doing a little bit more Broome stuff, but obviously we had to do some repairs and that kind of thing.
Catch up on some work.
I had a few van repairs and that to do. So we are moving on tomorrow, starting to slightly head down and show Rosa and Dave more of our favourite places in WA.
And just one thing, a shout out to the French lads. If you're watching this video, let us know if you made it to Broome. So we met a couple of French backpackers who were just travelling around in a car, and
we thought our van was struggling, but their car by the end didn't have air conditioning, so they were driving down a corrugated dirt road with their windows down, and their car was full of dust.
They're doing it rough, and they're doing it well, and they're enjoying it. So shout out to you boys. Unfortunately, we haven't got your names yet, but we saw them twice. Saw them at El Questro, and then we saw them out at King Leopold Ranges, and had a good yarn there. So
and
guys,
I was saying,
let us know you're riding brew.
Yeah, but I was talking to Rosa and Dave when we saw them the second time, and I was like, most Australians wouldn't even dream of going and doing Gib River in the setup that these guys were doing it, because we'd be like, no, like it's not safe. We need this, we need that, we need this, we need that. And we've seen it a lot, like especially backpackers, like European backpackers in particular, just come over with nothing and have a clapped out car. And they take it to all these incredible places that we would never dream of sort of taking that car. But it is possible with like the number of places we go to that we're in a caravan park and someone just has like a standard, not even SUV, like a sedan, a little tent, and they're still getting out and seeing it. Like, so you don't need a big flash van, a big flash four-wheel drive. Sure, it can get you a little bit further in some places, but you can see so much just with a tent or a swag and a car.
Just get out there, get on with it.
It's all about.
Make sure you got fuel and water.
It's all about making a choice.
It was funny though when they opened the boot and they had a bench there that they were storing stuff on and stuff under, but the bench had that much weight. It was like a bloody boomerang.
It was hilarious.
So it was and they just get on with it. So it's a lesson as well in particular for me, to just let go of things being all sorted, because I do go around and make sure everything's greased up, and there's nothing wrong with that. Wheel nuts are all torqued correctly and all that kind of stuff. But that's just more safety, and because this is our full-time gig, this is our home. We want to make sure everything's as safe, not only for us but for everybody else on the road. Because the thought of, I've heard horror stories and spoken to other people, and you see vans vans like that and cars like that, and even just cars like that where people are overloaded and it affects the braking, the steering. And some of these people are driving with families in, and I just think, mate, you need to check up from the neck up. Come on. So there's things that you can learn and things that and it's worth having these conversations with different people, and watching videos like this, asking questions in the comments, or reaching out and just asking for advice and the experience of people, because we've learned so much that unfortunately the people that we thought would have advised us didn't. Like from an angle of like the caravan company and stuff like that, and just check your weights and just check this, and you learn as you go. And even when we got our annex, like, oh yeah, do this, and we regret. Makes a great room, but we regret getting it. There's a better way that we could have done it, but no, people are just like, yeah, just do that. And you go, well, hang on a minute, ask us what we want.
And do things slowly, I think.
Yeah, don't jump in. You don't need everything. I think we've used our outside kitchen once.
Yeah.
But that's just us, and that's because of I get mauled to death even with stuff on, and it's very uncomfortable, not only for me but for Beth. So you just get out there, enjoy it, and learn as you go.
Yeah, and Hori is awake and probably wants to go to the toilet. So we will love you and leave you and see you further down the coast.
Yeah.
Make sure you do all the things, like, subscribe, comment below, and we'll see you on the road.
Thanks for your time. Bye for now.